Okay, we're back again. This is part 4, I believe. I just want to get back to the Blade Tribe Berserkers here. I just realized when they come into play, they get haste. So that's really pretty darn good. I mean, so basically, if you meet Metalcraft, you get a 6/6 that's swinging on the turn it comes into play. That's a problem most people aren't going to be able to deal with. So that makes him pretty darn good. Okay. Revoke existence. It's a sorcery. Exile target artifact or enchantment. It's basically a sorcery speed disenchant. In Pauper, I haven't really found many situations where I needed instant speed, disenchant effects. I mean, this could be technically pretty good. It could be pretty good with, replica abuse, I guess. If people trying to abuse Moriok replica to get extra cards, you could basically just exile it with this, maybe. Or any other type of artifact shenanigans, just to make sure they don't come back from the graveyard. Other than that, it's just pretty straightforward. It's good, but, I mean, it does what it does. Shatter is better artifact destruction in Pauper, although instant speed artifact destruction artifact deck isn't bad, or an artifact set isn't bad. Grasp of Darkness, not bad overall. I mean, really, you're probably going to want to put this in a more black intense deck, but -4 is never bad. Really is going to fight with Doomblade, I think, in a lot of different situations, but I think it's debatable which one's better. I think it's based on situation by situation type of thing, which will be better. But this is definitely isn't bad. It's instant speed. It gives them -4. It can hit black creatures. So I mean, if somebody's playing with like a wild mongrel, for example, they discard a card to avoid. They can discard a card technically to avoid Doomblade, but not this. I mean, the dog is dead unless they discard 3 cards. Instill Infection. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creatures an instant, then you draw a card. So basically it's just a cantrip -1/-1 thing. Actually, I think it's kind of a neat card. Nothing I'd ever want to put a place set in, but maybe something for teachings or something like that. And I'll probably catch flack for saying that, but I think it's kind of interesting. Basically, you can get rid of a creep, for 4 and have your card replaced, or you can just weaken a larger creature. If you get proliferate, maybe more proliferate comes out, it might be more effective. But it's interesting. Arrest. Enchanted creature can't attack, block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. There's better stuff than Arrest. So, Turn to Slag. This is another one that's just, there's just better removal than Turn to Slag. Wing Puncture. Pretty good. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature with flying. So basically all you have to have is a creature out to use this that has decent power. Hopefully enough to kill whatever creature you're targeting. It's green direct damage. And that creature your creature doesn't even have to tap or anything. All it just has to do is be on the battlefield. So that's not too bad for 1 green. Bonds of Quicksilver. This is another one I could see in teachings. The only problem I don't like with this is it doesn't actually tap the creature when it comes into the battlefield. It just sort of, the creature already has to be tapped. So, yeah, I think that's about the only thing I don't like. But I do like the fact that it has flash, kind of a tricky enchantment. Disperse. There's better bounce, but Disperse isn't bad. I mean, it's not great. Again, bounce is kind of a little weak in Pauper. Salvage Scout. Sacrifice Salvage Scout. Return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. This is a pretty powerful card. I mean, you can abuse just about any artifact with it. basically a much cheaper way to get artifacts from your graveyard back into your hand, unlike the gargoyle that came out of Alara. What is it? The Sanctum Gargoyle. But yes, basically for 2 you can return an artifact to your graveyard. If you don't need that ability, you have just a 1/1 dork basically. So not bad at all. Perilous Mirror, great card. Basically just put him out and wait for your opponent to come to you, or you can throw him in a deck that has creatures that like to sacrifice other creatures, so you can use his ability right off the bat if you want. You maybe like in a husk deck that uses, you know, the Nantuku husks, I think it's called, and the Phyrexian ghouls, and I can't remember the other creature that gets the bonuses when you sacrifice them. And there's a cheap vampire too that recently came out with does that. Could be pretty good with this. Artifact direct damage is always pretty good because it sneaks around, you know, protection, annoying abilities like that, you know. Ferrovore, sacrifice an artifact. Ferrovore gets +3/+0 until end of turn. I wish he had got like haste in addition or something to that. It just seems kind of bland. Okay, I guess overall. Not great though. Koldatha Rebirth. A sorcery. In addition to casting Koldatha Rebirth, sacrifice an artifact. Put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens into the battlefield. This is pretty good. Get a bunch of little goblins. Again, this could go in another in a husk-esque deck that uses, you know, maybe like the Bloodthrone vampire, stuff like that. You could cheaply get out tons of food for those creatures and then swing for a lot of damage. It seems like a pretty good card. Oxida Daredevil. Sacrifice an artifact, it gets haste until end of turn. Well, obviously better than the Goblin Piker, but not much more. Fume Spitter, sacrifice Fume Spitter. Put a -1/-1 on target creature. To me, this is like a better Festering Goblin, I think it's called, because the creature just gets the -1/-1 forever, or at least until it's put in the graveyard or bounced or something. It seems pretty good. It seems like a pretty good 1-drop black monster. Dross Hopper, sacrifice a creature. Dross Hopper gets flying until end of turn. Unless you really need to sack creatures in your deck for some reason for other bonuses, there's no real reason to use this creature. It's kind of meh. Seize the initiative. Target creature gets +1/+1 and first strike until end of turn. Just a cute combat trick. Nothing special there. Fulgent Distraction. Choose 2 creatures, tap those creatures, then unattach all equipment from them. Unless you're really facing lots of... I mean, no, not even really. Not even going to go there. Not even really that worthy. Soul Parry. This is kind of interesting to me. Cheap combat trick. Prevent all damage 1 or 2 creatures would deal this turn. The neat thing about this is, let's say creatures attack you, you prevent all the damage they would deal this turn. Your creatures can still deal damage to them. So that's pretty interesting to me. So they can, your creatures can damage still, but theirs can't. So that's not too bad. Tainted Strike. I think this card gets way too much attention overall. I mean, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains infect until end of turn. I think it's kind of a cute combat trick, but I don't think it's anything you can really... I mean, unless you're using tons of infect creatures already, then you already have infect and you're just giving them +1/+1. And in a deck without infect, it's just like, what's the point? It's just kind of a meh card, I think. Assault Strobe, however, isn't. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. This is pretty good. For 1 red, you can just really make it count in the early game. I mean, really, just really bad, just for 1. I mean, in a good way, just for 1 red. Unfortunately, it's sorcery speed, but I can understand why he's going to deal tons of damage. Hopefully. Vault Skyward just gives creature flying. Nothing special. Telgelad Defense. Target creature gains protection from artifacts until end of turn. Okay, usually going to be nearly useless ability. Draw a card. So I guess it replaces itself after doing that much. Withstand Death. Seems interesting. Target creature is indestructible this turn. If you need a creature to survive and you're using green, this is probably your card, because this thing, I mean, it's really not going to die unless they're getting hit by negative effects. So really not too bad for 1 green. Nice combat trick. Or just removal survival trick. Untamed Might. I like this card at first. But after thinking about it for a while, I think I'd rather stick with stuff like Giant Growth and Groundswell. You're just getting more for 1 mana. I mean, if you want a 3/3 with this, you have to spend 4, and Giant Growth is just 1. So it's kind of meh unless you're using tons and tons of mana or something. Molten Terrain. I've seen this card before. I think it was in Shadowmoor, and it had the hybrid cost. Seems decent. You know, destroy a land, hurt your opponent. Maybe it'll have some sort of land destruction deck application. Turn Aside. Counter target spell that counters a permanent you control. That's pretty solid. It just counters it outright if something tries to remove one of your creatures, or target anything you have out in the battlefield. That's not too bad for 1 blue. Psychic Miasma. Target player discards a card. If a land card was discarded this way, return Psychic Miasma to its owner's hands. Basically, your opponent can't get away with discarding excess lands. So it could be good. It seems somewhat decent. I guess time will tell. Steady Progress, Proliferate. Obviously, if you're using a lot of poison or something else, it's pretty good. Got lots of extra counters out, and then you get to draw a card and replaces itself. Not too bad. White Sun's Passage, basically just gain 5 life. If you have 4 of them in your deck, you can potentially gain 20 life, but overall there's probably better stuff to throw in your decks. And Blunt the Assault for our final card. Instant, you gain 1 life for each creature on the battlefield. Prevent all combat damage will be dealt this turn. That's pretty good. So basically fog, and then you gain tons and tons of life, hopefully. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I could see that being pretty good in like multiplayer, stuff like that. But overall, I think just your average Pauper deck, I don't think it'd be a card that'd show up that much. But not too bad. So that's it. That's my fairly long review on Scars of Mirrodin, Pauper, or common cards for Pauper. Hope you enjoyed. If not, too bad. Sorry.